People assume mentors are guides because they succeeded. That's really true. Most are guides because they failed first and lived long enough to understand what failure actually costs. Caleb never spoke about his past until the night Marcus unknowingly stepped on the scar. Marcus didn't sleep after asking himself whether he wanted to be known or useful. The question followed him to work, to the train, to the workshop. Caleb noticed his distraction, but said nothing. Not yet. Some truths don't surface until they are provoked. During a break at the workshop, Marcus watched Caleb help one of the teens and sand a crooked table leg. Patient, focused, almost tender, without thinking. Marcus said, "You ever think about doing more than this? Like scaling it?" The words sounded harmless. They weren't. Caleb stopped sanding, slowly set the tool down, turned to Marcus with an expression he'd never used before. Not anger, recognition. After the workshop, Caleb locked up in silence, then said, "You want to know why I'm here?" Marcus nodded cautiously. Caleb gestured toward the back office. "I've avoided that room for years. Tonight you're going to sit in it." The office was small, bare, except for one framed photograph. A younger Caleb stood beside a boy, maybe 16, both holding a finished wooden desk. The boy smiled widely. Caleb didn't. Marcus pointed gently. "Your son?" Caleb shook his head. "My mistake." Caleb sat down heavily, spoke slowly. "I used to run a larger program. Grants, donors, press coverage." He paused. "Then I got ambitious." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "I chased expansion, numbers, recognition, visibility." Caleb's hands clenched, and I stopped paying attention to the kid who needed me most. The boy in the photo was named Aaron, coat mandated, angry, brilliant with his hands. Caleb saw himself in him. Too much, maybe. "He trusted me," Caleb said. "I promised him I'd be there when it mattered." But on the night Aaron needed help most, Caleb was in a meeting, pitching growth, building something bigger. Aaron overdosed that night, not on drugs alone, on neglect. Caleb's phone had been on silent. He listened to the voicemail once, never again. The program survived, grew even. Caleb walked away from it anyway. He sold his tools, gave up the grants, chose something smaller, quieter, something he could see. "People don't need saving," he said. "They need staying." Marcus felt the words land, heavy and precise. Caleb looked directly at Marcus. "You asked if I wanted more," he said. "What I want is not to miss another moment that matters." Marcus swallowed, because he understood now. They sat in silence, two men at different ages, same mistake circling both of them. Marcus realized something terrifying. He wasn't afraid of failing. He was afraid of becoming successful at the wrong time. Caleb stood, opened the door, but before Marcus could leave, he said, "If you chase recognition before responsibility, you'll repeat my mistake." Then softer, "And you don't have time for that." Marcus walked home in the cold. The city looked the same. Traffic, lights, noise, but inside him, something shifted. Not healed, aligned. The countdown didn't stop, but it changed tone. That night, Marcus declined the exposure offer. No explanation, just a polite no. He didn't feel proud, he felt terrified. But for the first time, the fear felt honest. 2 weeks passed, no new emails, no praise, no money beyond the small commissions. The workshop grew harder, the stories got darker. Marcus wondered if he'd made a mistake, but Caleb said nothing. This choice had to be Marcus's. Marcus wrote one sentence in his notebook before bed. "Purpose isn't what makes you visible, it's what makes you stay." He underlined it twice. 40 was closer now. And for the first time, the idea of reaching it scared him more than disappearing. There are projects you work on for money, projects you work on for recognition, and then there are projects that feel like a quiet ultimatum for life itself. Tell the truth or stay numb. Marcus didn't know it yet, but he had just agreed to the third kind. The idea didn't arrive dramatically. No lightning, no inspiration montage. It came while Marcus was washing dishes at midnight. A single thought, intrusive and unwelcome. What if I write about men who decided to give up and didn't? He froze, plate in his hands, because that wasn't a story idea. That was an exposure. Marcus had written essays, short stories, fragments of truth disguised as fiction. This was different. This required him to admit something he had never said out loud, that for years he hadn't been living, he had been waiting to stop. The project won't let him hide behind metaphors. It demanded names, moments, shame. It demanded him. He didn't announce the project to Caleb, didn't post about it, didn't even title it yet. He simply opened a new document and typed, I promised myself I would stop trying at 40, then stared at the sentence for 10 minutes, then kept going. Honesty didn't feel freeing, it felt violent. Marcus found himself shaken while writing about his mother's last voicemail, the night his marriage ended, the mornings he hoped the train won't arrive. He cried while writing, then hated himself for crying, then wrote more. Sleep disappeared again. So did appetite. By the third week, Marcus's hands trembled constantly. Headaches returned. Chest pressure followed him through the day. The doctor's warning echoed. Your body is healthy, but your stress is killing you. Marcus ignored it. Some projects don't allow moderation. Caleb noticed the change before Marcus mentioned anything. You look thinner, Caleb said quietly after a workshop. Marcus hesitated, then handed him a printed draft. Read this, he said, but don't fix it. Caleb took it home. 3 days passed, no response. Marcus spiraled. He imagined Caleb disappointed, concerned, regretful for even pulling him back from the edge. The voice returned. You see, even this was too much. On the fourth day, Caleb found Marcus after class. Didn't smile, didn't sit, simply said, You're writing the thing people avoid their entire lives. Marcus braced. Caleb continued, and it's dangerous. Marcus nodded. I know. No, Caleb said. Dangerous because if you finish this, you won't be able to pretend anymore. Caleb handed the pages back. Tell me something, he said. Are you writing this to survive or to disappear loudly? The question hit Marcus harder than any critique because he didn't know the answer yet. That night, Marcus nearly deleted the entire project, cursor hovering over the folder, heart racing. The thought crept in quietly. If I erase it, nothing changes. I can still fade out cleanly. He stared at the screen until dawn, didn't delete it, didn't write either, just sat there. 2 months left. 40 was no longer symbolic. It was approaching like a deadline the universe intended to enforce. Marcus realized something terrifying. If he finished this project before 40, he might accidentally choose to live, and that scared him more than dying quietly ever had. During a workshop, one of the teens approached him. You okay? The boy asked. Marcus smiled automatically. Yeah. The boy shook his head. You lie like adults who already quit. The words cut clean. No malice, just truth. That night, Marcus made a decision he would finish the project. Not for publication, not for money, not for praise. He would finish it so that at least one version of him had told the truth before 40 arrived. At 3:12 a.m., exhausted and shaken, Marcus typed the title, The Year I Planned to Disappear. He leaned back, closed his eyes, and whispered, Okay, let's see what happens. For the first time in years, Marcus felt something unfamiliar. Not joy, not peace, responsibility. If this story mattered to anyone else, he might have to stay longer than planned. And the countdown inside him didn't stop. It just waited. Relapse doesn't always look like giving up. Sometimes it looks like discipline. Sometimes it looks like focus. Sometimes it looks like a man telling himself he's fine while slowly erasing everything that pulled him back from the edge. Marcus didn't stop functioning, he stopped connecting, and that was worse. The year I planned to disappear was nearly finished, too finished. The more Marcus wrote, the less he spoke. At work, he did exactly what was asked, no more, no less. At the workshop, he arrived on time, left early. With Caleb, conversations shortened, not tense, just hollow. He told himself he was protecting the work. The truth was simpler. He was protecting himself from needing anything. A familiar thought crept back in, wearing a new face. This was the point, wasn't it? Finish the story, close the chapter, leave clean. The countdown voice wasn't loud anymore. It was calm, reasonable, dangerous. Marcus didn't show up to the workshop one Saturday. No message, no explanation. He stayed home and rewrote the final chapter instead. Told himself the kids would be fine. Told himself Caleb would understand. Neither thought was true. An email arrived from the nonprofit editor. Subject line: following up, opportunity to expand. Marcus didn't open it, not out of fear, out of fatigue, because expansion meant future, and future required commitment. The headaches returned, worse this time. Tightness followed him onto the train. At night, his heart raced for no reason. Marcus recognized the signs, ignored them anyway. He had learned how to endure pain. He hadn't learned how to accept relief. Caleb noticed Marcus pulling away. He noticed the missed workshop, the clipped responses, the absence behind presence. And then he stopped reaching out, not as punishment, as respect, because chasing someone who hasn't chosen to stay yet only teaches them they don't have to choose. Weeks passed. Marcus finished the manuscript, saved it, bagged it up, then stared at it like it belonged to someone else. There was no relief, no pride, just a strange emptiness. He had told the truth, and the truth hadn't saved him. The calendar square circled itself now, 40, 3 weeks away. Marcus didn't plan a celebration, didn't warn anyone. He stopped crossing off days. He didn't want to see how close it was getting. Marcus thought about calling his ex-wife, not to reconcile, not to apologize, just to hear a voice that knew him before the numbness. He didn't call. He deleted the number instead. The old pattern returned. Remove attachments, reduce friction, disappear quietly. One evening, Marcus got off the train several stops early. No plan, no destination. He walked past familiar streets, past closed stores, past neighborhoods he didn't recognize. Rain began falling. He didn't seek shelter. For the first time in years, the idea of not returning home felt comforting. His phone vibrated once, then again. A text from Caleb. No accusation, no concern, just 4 words. Workshop needs you tonight. Marcus stared at the screen. Anger flared unexpectedly. Needs? After everything I've done? He almost ignored it. Almost. Marcus stood on the sidewalk, rain soaking through his jacket. 2 directions. Forward into the dark, anonymous streets. Back, toward the rain station. The workshop, responsibility. His chest tightened. This was it. Not 40. This. The moment we were disappearing stopped being an idea and became a direction. Marcus turned back, not heroically, not decisively, reluctantly, because the word needed echoed in his chest in a way the word wanted never had. The workshop was loud when he arrived. Sawdust in the air, laughter, arguments, life. One of the teens looked up and said, "Thought you quit." Marcus swallowed. "So did I," he replied quietly, then picked up a tool. That night, Marcus didn't feel better. He didn't feel saved, but something important happened. For the first time since deciding to disappear at 40, Someone's night would have gone worse if he hadn't shown up, and that realization terrified him because it meant the countdown wasn't in his control anymore. For years, 40 had lived in Marcus's mind like a locked door, a final boundary, a quiet exit sign, a permission slip to stop trying. And now they had arrived, not with thunder, not with collapse, but with a phone alarm at 5:30 a.m., the same one he had used for years. Marcus woke up before the alarm. That alone unsettled him. He lay still, staring at the ceiling, waiting for something to happen. Nothing did. No dread, no relief, no sense of arrival. Just an unexpected thought. I wasn't supposed to be here. In the bathroom, Marcus studied his face. New lines, slightly grayer hair, tired eyes that no longer looked lost, just got it. He whispered almost accusingly, 40. The world felt smaller than it used to. No one at work knew what the day meant. Coworkers nodded, emails came in, meetings filled the calendar. At noon, someone mentioned cake for another employee's birthday. Marcus declined politely. He wasn't in the mood to pretend this day meant something cheerful, or nothing at all. A small package waited on his desk when he returned from lunch. No card, just a book. Inside the cover, a single sentence written in careful handwriting. You don't disappear on a day, you disappear in moments. Marcus knew the handwriting. Caleb. The sentence unlocked a memory Marcus had buried. His mother, years earlier, standing in the kitchen late at night saying, Promise me you won't live scared. He had promised and broken it. Time slowed. Every minute felt borrowed. Marcus found himself noticing small things. The hum of office lights, a coworker laughing too loudly, the smell of burnt coffee. He felt strangely detached, like a man attending his own afterlife. After work, Marcus didn't go home. He went to the river, the same one he used to walk beside during his divorce, the same one he once imagined disappearing into, not physically, but symbolically. He sat on a bench and watched the water move without effort. You made it, the old voice said. You kept your promise. You can stop now. For a moment, Marcus felt peace, not happiness, release. Then another thought followed, quieter, more dangerous. But now what? His phone rang, an unknown number. He almost ignored it, answered anyway. One of the teens from the workshop, voice shaken. Marcus, can you come by? Something happened. Marcus didn't ask questions. He stood up, left the river behind. The walk to the workshop felt heavier than usual because this wasn't obligation. This was consequence. The teen wasn't hurt, not physically. He was breaking. Family trouble, relapse risk, nowhere else to go. Marcus sat with him for hours, didn't preach, didn't advise, just stayed. The clock passed midnight. 40 ended quietly. As Marcus walked home under streetlights, exhausted and hollowed out, a thought struck him. The day didn't kill me, and worse, it didn't free me either. Marcus had promised himself he'd stop trying at 40, but he never had promised himself what he'd do if he reached it anyway. That absence terrified him. That night, Marcus slept deeply, not peacefully, but honestly. For the first time in years, he didn't dream of leaving. 40 came and went. The world didn't notice, but Marcus did, because now there was no deadline to hide behind, no expiration date to blame, just a man at the start of a year he never planned for. And somewhere inside him, something shifted, not hope, responsibility. For Marcus, the night was different. No alarms, no appointments, no obligations, just silence. And an emptiness he hadn't confronted before. 40 had passed. The date that once justified surrender was gone. And now he had to decide who he was without it. Marcus returned home. The apartment, neat, silent, unchanged, looked foreign. The walls seemed to stare. The furniture whispered memories. The bed felt too big, too cold. He sat at the edge, staring at the floor. For the first time in years, he wondered if I walked out tonight, would anyone even notice? His phone buzzed once, twice. Text from the teens, from Caleb. He didn't answer. For hours, the digital world could have burned, and he wouldn't have known. It was peaceful, but terrifyingly empty. He thought about his mother, her gentle voice, reminding him not to live scared. His ex wife, patient, giving up because he wasn't truly living. The first stories he had written, all of it hit at once, like a wave too heavy to surf. He could almost hear the voice of the man on the train years ago. Your regrets will chase you forever. Marcus stood, no plan, no weapons, no dramatic gesture, just a slow, almost magnetic pull toward leaving, walking out, gone, anonymous, unnoticed. The world could spin, he wouldn't matter, and that was comforting. He paused at the mirror. A man looked back, pale and hollow. He didn't recognize himself, and he realized he wasn't afraid of death anymore. He was afraid of living, because living now required choice, not countdown. A call from Caleb came. Marcus stared. The ringtone sounded like accusation. He ignored it. A strange, isolated clarity settled. I am alone, completely alone. He left the apartment, no destination. The streets were empty, wet from an earlier rain. Streetlights flickered. The city smelled of asphalt and despair. He wandered past corners he hadn't noticed in years, past shops closing silently, past homes where laughter surely lived, past life, past himself. He stopped in an alley, pulled out his old notebook, pages filled with abandoned stories, half written chapters. Words that once inspired him now seemed like mocking ghosts. He read one. Sometimes living is harder than disappearing. The irony cut deeper than anything else. Marcus thought he heard a voice behind him. Rain, wind, nothing. Then the whisper again. You don't have to vanish tonight. Not a loud command, a soft pull. Familiar, calm. He spun around, empty alley, but the voice lingered in the chest, not the ears. Standing there, soaked and trembling, Marcus realized something terrifying. 40 didn't save him. 41 hadn't saved him. The only thing that could save him was choosing to keep going. No promise, no deadline, just a decision. He could still walk away, he could still disappear. No one would stop him, but he didn't. Hours later, Marcus returned to the workshop. The teens were gone. Caleb stayed behind. No judgment, no lecture. He simply handed Marcus a cup of coffee, and in that silence, Marcus understood he wasn't being saved by anyone. He was being reminded that he could choose life even when it's terrifying. That night, Marcus finally slept again. No relief, no joy, just a decision to wake up tomorrow. For the first time, the countdown didn't exist, and that was enough. He woke the next day, same apartment, same ceiling, different man, not saved, not inspired, not changed yet, but awake, alive, and that was the first step. Surviving wasn't enough anymore. Marcus had learned that the hard way. He didn't wake up inspired, he didn't wake up healed, he woke up tired of standing still, and that was new. The morning after the night he didn't vanish, Marcus sat at his kitchen table, coffee untouched, sunlight dull. Caleb's words from weeks ago echoed louder than ever. What are you actually tired of losing? Marcus finally answered it out loud. I am tired of losing days. The sentence landed heavy. Not dreams, not money, not people. Days. Marcus showed up at the workshop earlier than usual. Not because he had something to offer, but because he didn't want to be alone. Caleb was sanding a wooden board. No greeting, no small talk, just the sound of grit against grain. Marcus watched for a while, then said quietly, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Caleb didn't stop sanding. That means you're ready to do something new. Caleb handed Marcus a scrap of wood. Build something. Marcus stared. I don't know how. Caleb replied calmly, neither do the kids when they walk in. Marcus picked up the tools. His hands shook. He messed up measurements, cut too short, drilled crooked. But for the first time in years, he was making something imperfect instead of avoiding everything. Later that evening, one of the teens approached Marcus, a quiet kid named Ali, 18, coat mandated, angry eyes hiding fear. You look like you hate yourself, Ali said bluntly. Marcus didn't deny it. Ali continued, my dad quit life too, didn't die, just checked out. Marcus felt the words land like a bruise. Ali shrugged. I don't want to end up like that. Something in Marcus cracked open. That night, Marcus understood something painful. He wasn't invisible. He was being watched by kids who needed proof that it was possible to keep going without pretending everything was fine. And suddenly, disappearing wasn't neutral anymore. It had consequences. At home, Marcus opened his notebook again, not to write fiction, not to dream big. He wrote one line. Today I built something instead of waiting to feel better. That was it. No poetry, no ambition, just truth. Marcus created a rule. No planning the future, no judging progress, just one action a day that involved making something. Wood, words, helping someone else shape chaos into order. One day at a time. 2 weeks later, a teen asked Marcus to read something he'd written. In exchange, Marcus shared a short piece of his own, raw, unpolished, honest. The room went quiet, not because it was brilliant, but because it was real. Someone whispered, that sounds like how my head feels. Marcus felt something unfamiliar rise in his chest. Relevance. An email arrived from a small online blog. They had seen his piece. They wanted to publish it. No money, no fame, no promise. Just this line. Your writing feels necessary. Marcus stared at the screen. For years, he believed his voice didn't matter. Now, someone disagreed. The fear returned immediately. What if this fails? What if this is a fluke? What if hope is worse than emptiness? Marcus almost said no. Almost. Then he remembered the alley, the silence, the decision not to vanish, and he said yes. Nothing dramatic happened, no applause, no life-changing call, but Marcus started waking up with something to do, and that changed everything. Marcus didn't feel healed, but he was no longer waiting to be saved. He was practicing, he was participating in his own life again, slowly, clumsily, honestly. The moment Marcus stopped waiting, life responded, not with rewards, but with resistance. Because growth doesn't arrive quietly, it arrives tested. The blog publication did something unexpected. It traveled. A regional community arts program reached out. They wanted Marcus to speak, not to inspire, not to motivate, but to share his story with at-risk youth across the city. Unpaid, short notice, public. Marcus stared at the email for hours. His hands sweated, his chest tightened. Public speaking wasn't fear, being seen was. Marcus brought the email to Caleb. Caleb read it slowly, then said one sentence. If you go out there expecting validation, it will crush you. Marcus asked, then why go? Caleb replied, because someone in that room is exactly where you were. The venue wasn't warm. Concrete walls, folding chairs, 50 teenagers forced to attend. Marcus stood behind the podium, dry mouth, shaking hands. He didn't prepare a speech, he told the truth. I planned to disappear at 40. The room stood. Some laughed, some scoffed, some leaned in. 10 minutes in, a staff member whispered, keep it lighter. This is too heavy. Marcus froze. old instinct screamed, "Stop, adjust, become acceptable." But then he saw Ellie in the back, watching, waiting. Marcus continued. Half the room left, chairs scraped, doors slammed. Marcus felt exposed, rejected, small. He finished anyway, voice steady now. Afterward, 5 teens stayed. One girl spoke first. "No one ever said that out loud before." Another said, "I thought I was broken for feeling like that." Marcus didn't smile. He listened. 2 days later, an article appeared. Speaker promotes hopeless narratives to youth. Marcus read it twice, then a third time. Shame crawled back in. Emails followed. Angry, dismissive, mocking. "You're dangerous. You shouldn't have a platform. Stick to your job." That night, Marcus sat alone. The notebook stayed closed. The old thought whispered, "See, you should have stayed quiet." For the first time since the alley, the pull returned, strong, seductive, final. A knock on the workshop door broke the silence. Ellie, two others, rain-soaked. They held printed screenshots, supportive comments, messages from kids who watched clips. Ellie said, "They are lying about you." Marcus swallowed hard. "They don't know you." Marcus realized something crucial. If he stopped now, he wouldn't just be quitting himself, he'd be proving the world right. That honesty was dangerous. That pain should stay hidden. He stood up, opened the notebook, wrote again. A small podcast reached out, then another, then a community college. Still no money, but momentum. Marcus didn't soften his story, he sharpened it. He no longer asked, "Will this work?" He asked, "Is this true?" And that made him unstoppable. Months later, an email arrived. Subject: "I heard your voice." She had listened to an interview. She wrote, "You sound alive again." Marcus didn't respond, but he cried, not from loss, from closure. Caleb watched Marcus pack up after a talk. "You've outgrown this place," Caleb said gently. Marcus shook his head. "I'm just getting started." Caleb smiled. Marcus Holloway turned 41 on a quiet Tuesday. No party, no candles, no celebration. Just a cup of black coffee, a sunrise through the window, and one thought repeating in his mind: "I wasn't supposed to be here." 40 had been the finish line, the point where he planned to emotionally disappear, and yet here he was, still breathing, still creating, still standing. Life had broken his plan, and now it demanded a new one. 3 weeks after his birthday, an email arrived that didn't look real. A national mental health nonprofit had been tracking his talks, his essays, his podcast appearances. They wanted to license his story, not just to speak, but to build a structured program around it. Workshops, curriculum, digital content, books, corporate sessions. Marcus reread the message 10 times, then closed the laptop. Fear didn't rush in, responsibility did. Marcus walked to the workshop and found Caleb sanding a wooden table. He handed him the printed email. Caleb read it quietly, then asked one question: "Are you afraid of failing again, or afraid of succeeding this time?" Marcus didn't answer, because the truth was uncomfortable. If it worked, his old excuses would disappear forever. That night, Marcus sat alone with the notebook, the same one he nearly burned years ago. He wrote one sentence at the top of a blank page: "I will build what I once needed." Not a brand, not a persona, a system. A bridge between silent despair and honest rebuilding. And for the first time in his life, he didn't rush, he planned. The next 12 months were brutal. Marcus said no to quick money, no to watered down speeches, no to performative motivation. He spent nights outlining programs, days refining language, weeks rewriting chapters no one saw. He hired slowly, tested constantly, failed publicly, adjusted relentlessly. Money tricked in, then stopped, then came back stronger. He lived modestly, still scared, still unsure, but no longer empty. The breakthrough didn't come with applause, it came with data. One pilot program reduced dropouts rates by 38%. Another cut relapse incidents nearly in half. Corporate burnout workshops exploded. Suddenly, contracts didn't ask if, they asked how soon. Marcus watched numbers rise on spreadsheets, not with disbelief, but with calm, because this time it wasn't luck, it was alignment. By the end of that year, Marcus earned more than he had in his entire corporate decade combined, six figures, then seven, then sustainable growth. He paid off debt quietly, moved his mother's old belongings into a better place of memory, funded free programs without cameras. Money didn't save him, meaning made money stay. It happened accidentally. A national campaign launched. His face, older, calmer, alive, appeared on digital billboards across three cities. A simple line beneath it, "It's not too late to begin." Marcus stood across the street and watched cars pass. No laughter, no applause, no noise, just stillness, and then tears. He drove back to the apartment where the promise was made, where he whispered, "If nothing changes by 40." The building hadn't changed, he had. Marcus stood in the hallway for a long time, then left without regret. Caleb was older now, slower, still ready. Marcus handed him a folded paper, a contract, a foundation named after no one, just purpose. Caleb smiled and said, "You didn't just survive 40, you redeemed it." On his 41st birthday night, Marcus wrote one final page, not for publication, for closure. You thought giving up would stop the pain. It only delayed the lesson. You weren't broken, you were unfinished. He closed the notebook for the last time. Marcus didn't become rich at 41 because fate was kind. He became rich because he stayed. He told the truth. He stopped waiting for permission. He built instead of escaping. He wanted to die at 40, but life waited until 41 to show him why he was needed.